All right. Welcome, everybody, to High Stakes Game of Business, a billion-dollar battleground presented by All Things Media. My name's Rob Spierenburg. Whoops, I skipped ahead. My name's Rob Spierenburg. I'm the co-founder and CEO of All Things Media. My company develops a lot of digital solutions using Unity. Specifically today, we're going to talk about digital retail. And how we're creating solutions for clients like Mercedes-Benz and Toys R Us that completely change the shopping experience and help them kind of appeal to their customers, reinforce brand loyalty. So there's a battle going on right now. It's a battle for billions of dollars, and it's a battle for your time. Online brick and mortar retailers are losing ground as their customers increasingly go online to do their shopping. And in order to hold on to those customers, these retailers really need to create experiences unlike anything their customers have ever seen. The people today are really used to seeing technology. They've grown up with technology, most of them, and they really aren't easily impressed. So the battle for online versus brick and mortar is really a battle of logic versus emotion, right? Because you can get things cheaper online. It just makes sense. But then you miss out on the experience of shopping. And the experience of shopping is really a big part of why people buy things in the first place. And there's more at stake here than just money, right? Or just sales. Once you take away the emotional aspect of buying a purchasing decision, you basically make price king. And in a world where price is the deciding factor, businesses find themselves struggling to retain the brand loyalty that they've spent decades creating. So we create digital solutions for retail, and we create them with Unity. Unity is the perfect solution for this because it's flexible and allows us to basically deploy within any existing infrastructure with any of these retail chains. So if you go to Toys R Us, and they have, a PC infrastructure we can deploy there. If they have a combination, we can deploy across multiple devices and multiple platforms. It's extremely powerful, so it lets us take advantage. Gaming has always been at the forefront of technology. So it lets us take advantage of things like real-time rendering, multiplayer functionality, as well as, the wide set of plugins and adaptability of Unity to a wide range of different devices. And it's quick. I remember about 5 years ago, we were looking at doing a digital installation, and they were like, yeah, we're going to do the digital installation. It's going to be, 2 years down the road, and we're going to start planning now. That doesn't happen anymore because technology is changing so quickly that the consumers expect things to be fresh and new constantly. So we don't have long preparation periods, we don't have long development cycles, and we don't have a lot of time to deploy. So Unity allows us to deploy things very quickly, to test them very quickly, and then iterate and kind of enhance them. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. I'm sorry? Oh. I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. In early 2014, Mercedes-Benz came to us and asked us to pitch ideas for an experience that would help convey the advantages of their AMG line. Now, AMG is a higher-end version of Mercedes-Benz. It's kind of an oversimplification, but AMG is really a Mercedes-Benz on steroids. From the exterior, it looks cooler, but under the hood is where you really see the differences. People are willing to pay tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for an AMG, which largely looks the same as the standard Mercedes-Benz version, because under the hood, it's got a completely custom-built engine from the ground up. It's a completely unique set of components and just really takes it to the next level. But how do you convey that to somebody that doesn't really know, isn't a gearhead, doesn't know the AMG line? And how do you convey it to them in a way that's going to make them want to come to the dealership? And also still appeal to the gearheads and the aficionados that have been around forever. So in order to solve that problem, we created the AMG Powerwall. And the AMG Powerwall is a two-screen system where one screen is a large kind of like 4x4 TV screen wall, and the other is a controller. So you guys are just going to see what you would see on the wall, whereas I'm going to be using the controller to kind of control the whole experience. So give it a second. Come on, buddy. So what it is basically is a real-time rendering engine that allows you to kind of see any vehicle in their AMG lineup. Right now it has 30+ vehicles that'll have the level of detail I'm going to show you here. Using the real-time engine and tools that we actually created custom for this development, such as a real-time lighting tool that tries to apply studio lighting as you move angles. It adjusts the lighting, turns on and off different lights to maintain that studio lighting. Using the Unity 3D engine, we were able to take the source CAD of the vehicles and actually use them to create this model. So this is actually built 100% from the actual 3D files that they use to build the cars. Now, because I have that flexibility, I can actually blow it apart and start to look at the parts. Now, what you're not seeing is as I'm controlling this, it's obviously completely freeform. I can look at it from any angle that I want. And kind of see what's going on under the hood here. Now, for every vehicle, we have a number of different components that you can view, to include things like the engine, obviously, which is one of the cooler ones, we can also look at the exhaust, the brakes, the transmission, and the suspension. But for each of these components, I have the ability to kind of explode the engine. Can you guys turn on the sound for this? There we go. So I can blow up the engine. I can actually zoom in on any piece of it that, whoops, I just messed that up. I can zoom in on any section of the engine and get detail, rotate it to any angle that I want. And then I can also play animations that actually show off, what it's all about. This AMG engine is hand assembled from start to finish. Now, while I'm doing it, I can still pause it. I can still rotate it in real time as it's playing the animation. So it really allows a dealer to kind of explain or show the benefits of this custom-built engine.
Each major component has its own barcode and is visually inspected to ensure the highest quality control standards. Once the engine is fully assembled and tested, the master builder affixes a plaque engraved with their actual signature to the engine cover. While there may be faster and less expensive ways to build an engine, at our core, we believe that there is no substitute for the human touch.
So this functionality, carries across all of the various components. You have the ability to look at some very sophisticated interior workings here. So I'll show you one other one that I like for the suspension. Oh, whoops, I don't want to do the suspension, sorry. I've demoed this thing so many times. For the transmission, there's a lot of complexity that you really wouldn't be able to understand or see if you weren't actually looking at it in this medium. If I were to try and actually pull the transmission apart and explain all of this, it would take forever.
The AMG Speed Shift 7-speed dual clutch transmission enables computer-controlled gear changes in under 100 milliseconds. Race-proven dual clutch technology offers instant response to any driving situation. Even in odd-numbered gears are divided among 2 shafts, each with their own clutch.
All right, so you get the idea. Now this experience is available not only for this vehicle, but the full vehicle line. And it's presented on a wall that is big enough to allow for a one-to-one kind of experience. So, it's currently deployed in 15 different dealerships. It's going to be expanded to over 100 dealerships over the coming year. And the response to it has been overwhelmingly positive. And again, Unity has really allowed us to do this in terms of just allowing us to take advantage of the rendering engine and also the ability to network the 2 systems together and build custom tools that have allowed us to do things like lighting and create a rendering pipeline or a down poly pipeline that takes, CAD that's got, millions upon millions of polys and bring it down to a version that works here. We're also expanding upon this program now, taking this into VR. So now that we have it in Unity, and now that VR is coming to the forefront, we actually have demos now where you can actually preview this car in a VR environment. So last year, moving on to the next thing, we got the dream job. Toys R Us came to us and asked us to create a prototype store in Freehold, New Jersey that would basically experiment with making a Toys R Us a destination spot, a digital destination for children and for adults. It also was going to act as a test bed for new technologies. So it was Toys R Us Store of the Future, and I'll give you a quick overview of what we did. So basically we created 5 different types of interactive experiences. And these experiences included things like 50 Bluetooth beacons, scattered throughout the store, 10 interactive video screens, 5 3D projection booths with kind of like touch projection interaction, and 3 gesture mirrors, interactive gesture mirrors, as well as 1 360-degree projection movie theater, walk-in movie theater. And all of these things were basically tied together with a custom-built, custom-fabricated wand that essentially was the combination of a mini Android phone and an infrared scanner. So you would register one of these wands, and then you'd be able to take it around the store and scan products and add them to kind of your kid's wish list, but then also simultaneously be able to trigger the interactive experiences through the store. So if I walk up to the mirror, I can engage with the mirror, but if I have the wand, I can unlock a special character. Or if I walk up to the video screens, I can trigger cool little Jeffrey animations. And we built the entire system from the ground up to include, the technology and the fabrication, but none of this, from experience, would have been possible without Unity. In looking for a device that was small enough to act as the wand, we had to use an Android phone, but at the same time, we had PCs, some legacy PCs running in the store that we needed to deploy on. And then for the digital projection system, we had Macintosh OS running a proprietary software made by, the guys that make the digital projection. And so Unity really allowed us to tie the various systems together, implement things like the Kinect, and tie it in very quickly. The entire experience was built from beginning to end in 4 months, and fabricated, deployed in store with all of the programming and everything done in a 4-month development cycle. And since then, we've already started to iterate and move further. So something like this interactive mirror, when we first deployed it, was not nearly as robust as it is now. We've added the ability to cycle through various characters. We've added the ability to do, Chris will demo it for you. We've added the ability to kind of trigger gesture-based animations. So for the Lego character in here, he's coming up next, if you hold a specific pose, it recognizes the gesture and plays animation. So he'll show you. So these are things that the brands are keen on. It really allows them to kind of reinforce their kind of hold on kids, through that kind of emotional connection. And since the store, we deployed 3 mirrors in the store, but now we're also deployed another 12, 8 here in the US and another 2 overseas, and that's just the first wave. So we're continuing to iterate on that. We're continuing to explore the other experiences in the store, and overall, it's been a huge success. So to sum it up, I think I might have gone way faster than I should have. Darn, should have spent more time on the Powerwall. To sum it up, the way that we shop is changing. And in the battle for customers, only experiences can win over cost. And the experiences are really what game development is all about. So Unity is helping us to develop systems for brands that create emotional moments, increase sales, and reinforce brand loyalty. The distinction between gaming and retail is fading, and Unity is right there with us on the front line. And I guess I'll open it up. I've got plenty of time left, so please ask questions. Open it up for questions. Sir? Originally, so just to give you an idea of how these things kind of play out, originally the experience was supposed to be a gesture-controlled experience. The client was, really was keen on that Minority Report feel, which, is basically Minority Report comes up at least once a year in every single interface that we develop. But yeah, so originally we were looking at gesture, and then we took a look at Audi City out in the UK, and saw how they implemented a gesture experience, and realized that it just wasn't ready for the kind of complex interaction that we needed to do. In terms of why use the 2-screen experience as opposed to making the large screen a touch screen? The other thing is, if you're standing that close to it, you can't really appreciate everything you're supposed to see. You touch it, then you back away, then you come up to it again. So really, I think the 2-screen experience allows you to kind of appreciate the breadth of what you're looking at in a larger screen. I think I had another question over here somewhere. No? Good. Anybody else? What do you got?
Okay, so this is more of a pre-production question. When you're dealing with these clients like the Toy Story client or Mercedes, and you're proposing these ideas, one thing that often comes up is the need to create a proof of concept very rapidly. And over the few years that I've been using Unity, I've seen some different methods come up in terms of how to make that happen. And I was just curious if you were willing to share what your prototyping pipeline looked like in terms of the way you do it.
Well, we have a dedicated R&D group, actually based out in Boulder. We're based in New Jersey. But what we do is, we have somebody just always tinkering around, to be honest with you, just messing around with whatever is cool and coming up. Typically what we'll do is we'll look at a client that has a need, or look at something that we think is compelling, or a technology that comes out, and just very quickly create a demo, very rough, and then use that to sell it in. In the case of Toys R Us, one of the things that got us in the door is the gesture experience that you see here. We had already created a gesture-based mirror experience prior to meeting with them. So when we went in, we showed that to them. We showed them like the digital touch projection interface, that we had seen, another cool technology that we'd experimented with. And so we went to the meeting ready to basically sell it in, In terms of the pipeline, I mean, it really depends. Sometimes we'll have a meeting like 2 weeks out and be like, it'd be really cool if we could have this, And sometimes we'll actually look at the market and the need and really just sit down as a group, brainstorm ideas on what could meet that need, and then put some money into R&D and create a prototype.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No, I'll bring up another vehicle.
Can you give us some example of something that didn't work or some bad idea?
Sure. Toys R Us Store of the Future, the light projection, interactive light projection, which is basically, I'll pull up the slide. It's basically a projector tied to a Kinect that, whoops, let me put it on here. So a projector tied to a Kinect that actually, you have real product there, and you have the ability to kind of touch and interact with it and press areas on the product or on the floor to trigger animations and videos. It was a really cool concept. A couple of the issues that we ran into once it was actually deployed in the store is so damn bright. And we built a whole enclosure to try and minimize the light, and we did everything that we could. We tested it early on, and it seemed fine. But once you get it in the store, it also turns out part of the prototype store was to basically quadruple the lighting of the store. So once we got it in there, it looked a little washed out. In addition to that, you have the issue with kids trying to grab the toys and rip their heads off. Which is something that we got handled by putting plexiglass over the front of it, which is, you can kind of see the reflection in some of it. But once you put the plexi over it, A, it diminishes the light coming through, and B, you kind of lose that actual physical interaction with the product that made it so cool in the first place. So then you might as well just have a video screen with little buttons in front of it that play videos, right? So at that point, we basically walked away from that. Or the client walked away from it. We said, okay. So that's one of the things that didn't work. The Bluetooth beacons in the store, that's another thing. So, various different things. The Bluetooth beacons in the store, initially, when we created the wand, we had a little ding on the wand when you walked by something that you could trigger. So every time it detected a Bluetooth beacon near you, it would ding and you would press play, and if it was like a Bluetooth beacon, it would play a little animation or audio clip. And if you were by a video screen, it would trigger a video and all that. The problem that we ran into there was there's so many beacons in the store that these people are walking around, it's just like ding, 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 everywhere you go. And by the time we did a couple of run-throughs, we realized that was no good, so we killed the ding. And it kind of reduced the number of beacons too. I think we were a little ambitious on the number of interactions that we put in the store. But outside of that, everything worked great. I'm trying to think if there was anything on the AMG side that we put out that didn't work on first pass. No, I mean, the AMG thing, we had a little bit longer of a period. Our prototype period was probably about a month and a half of actually building out the first car. And that was before we were even being paid, so that was great. Spending that month and a half developing. Then when we actually got the full go-ahead off of the prototype and built out, I think we're at 30 plus now. By that point, we had worked out a lot of the kinks. Yeah, so the base features that it has right now, initially the first iteration of this, you walked up and it was only one character. So one mirror was Mickey, another mirror was Optimus Prime, and another mirror was Ninja Turtles. And if you had the wand, you could trigger it. So the wand was basically a Bluetooth beacon by the mirror hooked into a PC. When my wand got close enough to it, it detected the beacon. I pressed a button, it sent a signal through Wi-Fi back to the main server. The main server told this to turn on Jeffrey, right? So if I walked up to this, I could press a button, Jeffrey appears. Since then, since the initial deployment, we've iterated it to have the character switching functionality you see now. So every mirror can have every character. You just choose when to step in to become the character. And then the other feature that we're deploying now, or that have in it now, is this gesture-based animations. So when you walk up, if you hold a T pose or a certain pose, the character will go into like a cool little animation. And where we're thinking about taking it in the future, gaming, right? So now we actually are getting far enough along that we can actually create a compelling game. So use a gesture to put it in game mode, and then be able to use gestures to actually play a game right there in the store, like a 30-second to 1 minute interaction.
Hello, I have a question. Over here.
Oh, hey.
So I do HoloLens development, and all my
God.
clients want to load CAD models, which is impossible in the HoloLens because it's just not powerful enough. You mentioned that for AMG, you were taking the CAD models and doing optimizations to make them work in Unity. Could you elaborate on that?
Two things. One, well, yeah, I can elaborate on it a little bit. I don't know a lot of it, because at one point in my life I was a programmer, at one point in my life I was a 3D modeler, but now I'm just a businessman. But what I can say is that we take the CAD, we run it through automated systems that down poly it initially. The problem is with a vehicle like this, and as kind of pinpoint as the client needs that vehicle to be, those automated systems can only take it so far. From there, we'll basically ride the line, and once we start seeing degradation, we'll bring it to a point where it degrades a little, and then we actually have a manual process where we've learned to identify what parts of the vehicle typically degrade the fastest, what areas of the vehicle are the biggest trouble. And so for those areas, we'll go in and actually pinpoint that and take it out. And actually, before all of that, there's the huge process of stripping out detail, which, taking out all of the washers and screws and like all the things that you don't need. Like as cool as that engine looked, I mean, that's probably, we've probably stripped out, by hand, stripped out maybe like, I would say almost 60 to 70% of the geometry that was in there that you just don't need. Like little hoses that you'll never see and stuff like that. It's crazy, you never realize how complex cars really are until you actually try and build an engine in CG. until your computer craps out, because you just can't handle it. So yeah, I mean, it's a process that's taken us a number of years, but we're getting there. We've got automated to a certain extent, but it's a combination of automated and manual. And on HoloLens, man, we've tried. I'd say you're SOL on that, at least for the short term, man. We've got something that looks reasonably okay, but you're never going to get to the level of quality that they want, for that. On the Vive, and Oculus, you got a much better chance. What's up?
Okay, so this is more just conversational, but are there any future technologies that you want to kind of take a minute to brag about that's coming down the pipeline, or exciting things?
Future technologies or future things that we're doing?
Future things.
Our big focus right now is, well, we're doing a lot of different things. The biggest thing that I would say is taking experiences like this and bringing them into VR, right? Creating systems where we take all of our learnings in real-time rendering and downpolling and optimization and move them into the VR space and allow you to, part of the issue is, hey, getting people to the brick and mortar store. The other part of it is, online's not going anywhere. And people, the biggest pullback on online a lot of the time is you can't really experience it or see what it is you're buying. And with things like VR, coming into the home faster and faster and faster, we have to find ways to kind of use that, and combine it with online shopping to give you that extra layer of immersion. You're welcome. Thanks. Thanks, guys.